Hello, my name is Jonathan Forster, and welcome to the Multi-Story Thinking podcast on interior design. I'm an interior designer and educator. My job is to improve quality of life and productivity by helping people to create beautiful and practical spaces to live and work in. The Multi-Story Thinking podcast takes an educational slant to the interior design world. If, like me, you are curious about how things are done within the industry, want to know how people got their breaks and how they've developed their careers, and get some top tips and advice, then this is the podcast for you. So sit back, relax, as we help unravel the mysteries of interior design. Pam Durkin is an interior designer, a business coach for interior designers, and a podcast host. Originally from New Jersey and now based in Florida, Pam has been in the high-end interior design industry for 30 years. After 7 years of exclusively working in commercial design, she founded Pamela Durkin Designs, which specialises in residential and commercial design in Florida. Pam is a past president of the ASID Florida South Chapter, served on the Board of Architecture and Design in New Jersey, and is the author of the book Elevate. She has progressively branched out into business coaching for interior designers, where she combines her experience and expertise to help interior designers find great clients. I interviewed Pam in May 2022, prior to her launching her podcast, The Six-Figure Designer. In this episode, we discover the importance of understanding yourself and really knowing who you want to work for, how lifestyle choices can help stimulate shifts in your business, why designers should learn from each other and the importance of leapfrogging, and why you need to be more like Sherlock Holmes. You've got a busy couple of weeks. What's coming up then?
My husband is also a business coach, and he is having an in-person mastermind this week with about 12 people.
Okay.
So we have 12 people coming into town, so that's happening. And then next week I'm traveling to a design center in Chicago to do a presentation. So getting ready for all of that. So,
Yeah.
and then work.
Yeah, work as
And
well.
The regular stuff, the
Yeah.
regular stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
that sounds great. So the coaching, I think what interests me about you, first of all, you approached me, which is great, because I think I've spent the whole of this podcast life trying to approach other people.
Yeah.
And I know that can be a real pain. So it's a joy to get someone actually approach me to take the legwork out of it. But what interests me about looking into you and your work was the coaching element of your business, so
Right.
alongside the interior design.
Yes.
I've just had a coaching session this morning. I'm a strong believer of coaching as being a really important part of business development.
Yep.
I think everyone should have a coach. That would be my recommendation. But how did you get into that? And how do you see the value of it in terms of what you can add to the business development of a person or a business company,
Yeah. So, the reason that I got into it was because, just like you said, I have firsthand seen the value of coaching and how that has helped me in my own business and really in multiple parts of my life. Because, even if you have a business coach, it's really a lot about how the whole package sort of works together, right? Running a business and then also having life outside of your business. So I've been able to, reap the benefits of having a few different coaches and just seeing how much that makes a difference. And, having a coach is, and I agree with you, I think everyone should have a coach. And that person is, the wonderful thing about a coach is that they're I'm going to use this word loosely, but a disinterested third party. Not that they're disinterested, but they don't carry all the weight of and entanglements of all the other things that you carry when you're making a decision in your own business. And so one of the things that I think is a strength of mine is that I can see the potential of the person that I'm coaching, and I can also see where the issue is lying, even though they might not be able to see that. And that's just, I think it has to do with the fact that, I'm not emotionally attached to all the things that you're emotionally attached to in your own business. So that's what I think about the value of coaching. I got into coaching actually pretty much not by accident, but it wasn't in my mindset. Like, it wasn't something that I had always planned to do. I had been in a couple different groups, and I liked to help other people. I was in a mastermind group. It was 40 other entrepreneurs. They were from all over the country. Not one creative in the group, maybe 2 other women. So men in all different kinds of businesses. And this is things like somebody owned a restaurant, somebody owned sort of like a CarMax kind of company. So it was $100 million company. Somebody owned real estate investment. So they were all different types of businesses. And we would do these things called hot seats. And so someone would get up and, talk a little bit about their business and then talk about a problem they were having. And I always jumped up and would give my 2 cents. And people kept coming up to me saying, "You're so good at seeing the heart of the matter so quickly. Have you ever thought about coaching?" And I was like, "No, I'm just helping. I'm just, being a part of the group." And that just kind of got the wheels turning with the coaching. So that's how I got started in coaching. In the business for 30 years. I figured I had something to give back to my own industry.
I think that's something I can recognize. I've been the beneficiary of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done any proper real coaching, although I'm in a position where I can mentor people, I suppose, my students particularly.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I must know something by now. So I've been doing it.
I would have to say you probably do.
Yeah. So sharing that, I think that both taking on a coach to mentor you and also being a coach takes a lot of confidence, I would say, just in the process. And you're right about that disconnect. I think it's really important to be you're able to sort of see things from a different perspective and ask the questions that unlock those problems. That's the key, I guess. And I often find that when you get asked those questions, and it's almost like a light switch has gone on, isn't it? That you think, oh my God, yeah, of course. That
you're like, that's so obvious or so simple. I've heard that. Wow, that was just such a simple answer.
Yeah.
And sometimes as creatives, we do like to overcomplicate things. So sometimes we try to, as I say, we try to build a piano when we don't really need to. So, yeah.
But you've started in the interior design industry.
Yes.
And you've, so just, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into that? And then I'm interested in how you're sort of transitioning more into coaching and how you deal with that balance of those 2 roles.
Right. So I've been a designer for 30 years and went to school for design, came out of school, and, a little while after I came out of school, was able to get a job in design. And so my initial workings in interior design were in the commercial field. I worked for a company that's a Herman Miller dealer. So they do panel systems and things for large offices. So we did a lot of big moves, and I was near New York City. So the companies that we dealt with were rather large. So I got my feet wet on that part of the business and really laid a lot of groundwork for how I ran my own business when I got to that point. So started my business 22 years ago and took all of those sort of organizational processes type commercial mindset that I had gotten when I worked for somebody else and brought it to my own business. I've always kept one foot in doing commercial design, and I still do that now. I'm in Florida. Our commercial work tends to be more residential in feel because a lot of it is for high-rise buildings and things like that. And then I also do work for people who have second and third vacation homes here, which is basically most of our market here and the type of work that I do. So yeah, I've had a varied experience and taken a little bit of everything that I've learned along the way and incorporated into my own business.
You were talking about, I listened to you on some podcasts about, the lack of that business awareness in the education system. I mean, that's something
Yes.
I can sort of relate to, although we do have that element, but we're talking about a sort of different level of expertise, or perhaps, when you teach it to students, they just aren't in a position to really appreciate what it means, until you start working in the business. So
right.
How did you get to that point where you thought there's something to be told, that you need to promote in terms of business? And is that what introduced you to the idea of coaching and talking more about supporting businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all think of in the design industry, I think we think of ourselves as a designer first and a business person maybe 10th. And which in some industries would be fine, except that, what is it, like 75% of designers own their own businesses or in a small business. And so we need that skill if we're gonna run a business. And I just don't think it's talked about enough. And while there are, the skills of learning how to be a designer and what the elements of a good design are certainly important, I think equally important is how to take that skill and that craft and make money at it, make a living at it, if you're going to go on your own, which I don't know is really being taught in school. And just, that whole, we talk about this, I have 2 kids in college now, and neither of them are going into this design field, but, just creative problem solving is a skill. One skill that I think we all need to be good at is you're not going to know the answers, but you have to figure out how to find the answer, right? So you have to be a good investigator. And then, the other thing that I think is incredibly important in any setting is how to talk to people and how to network. Like I always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And while I believe you need to know, obviously, some things to be a designer and there are skill sets, but it also, the world runs a lot on who you know. So, I'm always stressing that is, create those connections, make those connections, that will get you very far. So I think it's important.
That is taught to a certain extent, and there are the opportunities. It's just, I think people traditionally were thinking of, you get trained to go and work for somebody, in the good old days when there were real jobs with real companies. And now It's more about that entrepreneurial mindset and what opportunities. And even if you're working within an industry, that things are changing so quickly that you need to be agile, don't you? And look for opportunities. And I don't think that's truly, we're starting to, I think there's just isn't enough time, is there? You're teaching the craft of design for a few years to some students. It goes very quickly. To then teach them to be business people on top of that, it's a big ask. And I think that's something we need to work on as an industry. But
and to your point, even if you work for somebody, there's still marketing involved, right? You're still marketing yourself in some way.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk about that as well. And even key contacts, when you work for a company, those key contacts are the one that are going to recommend you for a promotion or talk to you about another department who's looking for somebody with your skill set. And so all of that can translate to you owning your own business or you working for someone, or if you're looking for a position somewhere. I mean, all of that comes back to, how do I help the person that's looking for someone, whether that's in my industry or a client or within my workplace? How do I identify what they really need? And then how does my skill set match up to that?
Yeah. So you're talking about those sort of characteristics and skills being really important, irrespective of what sector or part of the design world you're in, or whether you're working for yourself or within a business. They're really,
and I think creatives can, we tend to be very intuitive as creatives. And so why not use that skill that a lot of us already have to further help us, either get ahead in a company or go on our own or get other clients. Why aren't we using those, picking up on those visual cues and then, sort of riffing off of it or going, making conversation or making connections with people using the things that we're observing.
Well, that makes it a lot more tangible, I think, for creatives to think about it in that sense.
Yeah, because we're using a skill that we already have. And it's not like I have to learn how to be a salesperson and I'm an introvert or that's not something I'm good at. It's just really like, how can I connect with this person and solve the problem that they have, whatever that is, with the skills and the things that the type of work that I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's really goes back to, I've talked to so many designers and they just love helping people. And I think that that's what a lot of us enjoy about what we do. And so if you think about marketing yourself or marketing your business as helping people, it makes it a little more palatable.
Yes. And that sort of gives you a kind of reason for being, isn't it? That I think that's our
purpose, right? Big purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing that I've really, a couple of things that, and you mentioned them in the podcast and you've written about it as well, is that it's having that sense of purpose. Why are you doing something? Because that gives you a bit of focus, but then it's also like, who are you doing it for? And you talk about visualizing who your client is going to be, which again, it sounds like a really obvious thing, but I think lots of people don't even think about it, do they? They just take every job that comes along and some are good and some are bad, but you talk very passionately about really knowing who you want to be working for.
Right.
Trying to do that. Can you talk us through that sort of that process in a way and how you encourage that in people?
So why not craft the business that you want, right? And so that's a little bit what I call your perfect future client. So you're creating that person. You're taking some time to think about what that person is and then how that relates to the type of work that you want to do. So I can give you a couple stories to illustrate that point. So I was coaching a designer who had been in business 15 years, does really quite beautiful work and, is very experienced. And we were talking about what I call their avatar, their perfect future client. And they were like, I totally know who that is. And I'm like, great. And I said, well, tell me. And they did. And as they kind of moved through more of the coaching process, they kind of came back and said, wow, I never realized that my best client, they're primarily all lawyers. And I was like, wow, you've been in business 15 years and you did not realize that they were all lawyers? And they said, no. And I said, well, that's really interesting because think about the type of personality that lawyers are. First of all, extremely busy, right? A lot of times a type A personality. So they want stuff done quick. They want it done right. They don't want to be terribly involved because they're super busy. And then we were talking about where they would find this, like more lawyers, more of these types of clients. And I'm like, most designers would want to be doing their marketing, say, on Facebook or Instagram. But, in talking it through, I'm like, are the lawyers on Facebook and Instagram? And he's like, no, they're probably on LinkedIn. And I'm like, yes. So you need to be where that person is at. And so that's kind of why you need to be diving into who your perfect future client is. And even if you're an experienced designer, it changes every couple of years because your business changes and what you want changes and the level of project or the type of work that you want to do changes, over time. And so you do have to revisit it. There's a couple things you can do. You can, of course, go back and look through previous clients. Who were the ones that you enjoyed working with? What were the type of projects? How profitable were they? Where did you feel sort of the most aligned with them? And I would just start writing down, creating all those personality traits about the project, about the person, and you're creating the best of all the worlds that you've seen so far. If you've not had a lot of projects, certainly you need to start trying some things when you're newer in business, but being mindful of what you're really enjoying, what you feel is moving you in a direction that you want to go in and you want to grow your business. I spoke to another designer who was talking about, we were coaching and I was asking her about her business and she said, well, I'm approaching my business like typical where I want to do, whole houses or things like that. She's like, but I really love to do window treatments. And I'm like, well, why aren't you just focusing on that? And she's like, I don't know. I never really thought of it before. And then we started talking about how she has, her installer is also a woman, and how, someone who's at home, who's having somebody come in to install window treatments, if it happens to be a man, from a woman's perspective, how we might feel uncomfortable, how we need to protect ourselves in some way because we're the only ones home. And I said, why don't you kind of dive into, we're women, we understand women, you don't have to be worried about us. We're going to take care of your home like we would ours because we tend to be more anal retentive women. And so we kind of really dived into what that meant for her and her business. And she started focusing specifically on that one skill. So to your point, you don't always have to have the business that you think everyone else has just because that's the way it's been done. So
I think that's really fascinating there. So it's about understanding the kind of work you want to do and the type of client who typically might not just their job role but also their sort of personality in a way that you can resonate with, but also thinking about what are their fears, what are their worries, and the idea of helping. How can you help them make the decision? And so it's quite complex, isn't it, once you start getting into it, the detail you're talking about.
Yeah, and you can use some of the things that clients have said to you even after the fact, where thank you, I was so concerned about this, or you really helped me narrow down the choices, or I was so overwhelmed by, and these are the things, these are their worries, these are their fears. So again, being observant, being mindful of what you're hearing day in and day out will help you start addressing what your services are really helping people with, more than a pretty space, right? We're trying to get to the bigger transformation.
Yeah, the sort of the why behind the
real reason.
Yeah, I know. That's great when you start doing that, isn't it? But it's like a sort of treasure hunt, isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, you have to be like Sherlock Holmes, right? You have to start picking up on the clues that are being set in front of you. And this comes down to slowing down a little bit. I'm like a big proponent of, managing your time. And one of the things that we need to do as designers is take a breather and not just be so reactive and just go all the time, but being a little proactive in how we want our business to go in the future. What do we want that next step to look like? And then how are we going to start blending what we're doing to get us there?
So is that something you recommend as part of your coaching program then? And how does that manifest itself? Well,
I teach time blocking because I think it's really important. I think that I'm sure a lot of us have gotten to the end of a day or the end of a week and said, what did I do this week? We were just talking before we got on, like, we don't even know what happened yesterday, much less 2 months ago, right? And so the time's just becoming a blur. And if we slow down a little bit, then we can be making sure that what we're working on is moving things ahead, moving things forward.
Yeah.
In a thoughtful way, right?
You need to have an idea of what moving forward is then, don't you?
Well, and that's why you have to sit down and say, who's my client? Who am I going after? Where are they located? How am I helping them?
Yeah.
And then how can I start getting in front of more opportunities where they're going to be the audience?
So that coaching process, what's the sort of typical relationship you have with a client, in terms of time frame and frequency? And
yeah, so I have a couple different levels. Like I have some quick hit things, which are just an hour where we just deal with one problem that's going on. And, there's always something that could be happening in your business right now that you just need to solve that problem. Like it could be a client or something like that. So I have a 1 hour ad hoc, take as you need it type program. And then I also have a 6-week course called In Demand Designer, which talks about creating your perfect future avatar and figuring out where they are. And then I also do one-on-one coaching, which is twice monthly. So I kind of got the 3 levels of, how you would want to work with a coach. so that you can try it out, which is a lot of times what people, if they've never hired a coach before, they want to see what it's like.
Yeah.
And it just really depends on what you need and what level you want to dive in to time with me.
Yeah. And that's, I think when we spoke last time, you were talking about that's going to be more and more of your time, and as in a sense of in relation to the interior design work.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still going to be doing some interior design work then, or do you think you're going to your sort of journey is more towards the coaching end of the spectrum?
I mean, I'm doing a blended approach right now, and this is, you kind of call it almost purgatory, because you've got one foot in one world and another foot in another world, and you're juggling all these things. But if you want to, even in your own business, if you want to start taking on a different level of project, of course you can't drop everything that you have and start with the new. Yeah. You start a blended approach, and then you continue to change the percentages. And so that's what I recommend to people who want to sort of up their game in their own business. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I want to be more mobile. Like I had mentioned earlier, I have 2 kids in college. They're almost done in school. And so it would be nice to be able to travel a bit more. And, when you're a designer and have physical projects, you need to be around. And so I would like to have more flexibility where it could be more of an online world. Is that to say that I will give up design completely? Probably not. But I think I'll be more and more selective as the time moves forward, and as I start to get into more coaching and take on less design projects.
That's interesting. So that sort of lifestyle choice or desire is something that's stimulating a shift in your business approach.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And I've been doing design for 30 years, and I think when you've done something for that long, you feel like you've seen a lot and done a lot. And, as creatives, we're like, I'm a futuristic thinker in general. So I'm always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Like, I don't really dwell on anything that I've done. I just kind of move on to the next thing. And, I just feel like it's my newest challenge, right? To challenge myself, and then to also, in some ways, to give back. I mean, this industry struggles incredibly with not being valued or not feeling valued, and then not being paid what they're worth, and not understanding the magic and the beauty that they provide the world.
Yeah.
And so I want to re-engage with that. I want people to realize that what they're doing is so incredibly important and special. And for that, we should be paid for it.
Definitely. I think getting paid for it is the
key.
But I mean, that's part of the way in which I look at it, in terms of what, particularly interior design, we've got that opportunity to shape the experience of people, haven't we? And to positively change their experience. And what a great opportunity that is to make the world a better place. It sounds a bit idealistic, but actually that's what's in our hands, even at a small level. And
we are doing it. That's the other thing, is we think we can make the world a better place. We already are making the world a better place.
Yeah. So you're there to try and get people to realize that, and also to give them the skills to really craft their own business, to create
the confidence to go ahead out there and charge it, and then create that business that supports all that.
And you've got a book. I came across your book, Elevate, which I can see is in the background of your office there, cleverly, sort of subliminally, sort of reaching out to me.
Marketing, woo!
Exactly, yeah. Tell me a bit about that. I mean, that's how to take your business from the basement to the penthouse. I mean, that sounds very inspiring and aspirational. It's great. I think a lot of people just get nervous about being ambitious and with the of their careers, or thinking that they can be the best, So is this book about trying to just give people the confidence to do that?
Yeah, I mean, the book is somewhat anecdotal. So it talks about some of the things that I've learned over my time in the business, some of the mistakes that I have made, some of the shiny objects I have chased. And so it also just says, running a business is a windy road. There is no straight shot from, where you go, where you start to where you end up. We all know that something took a twist and a turn and here and there. And so I want people to realize that they're not the only ones that feel frustrated and feel like it's not happening fast enough and feel like, they're the only one that's not as successful as everyone else they look at. It is a continual process. And so I talk about some of the big ideas that have really helped me move my business forward, which is, time management, understanding who my ideal client is, understanding myself as a designer, and then understanding about marketing and why that's so incredibly important.
The marketing thing, I think, again, is like, it's something we don't really cover off properly in education, and it's always the last thing on the list, isn't it, to do?
Yes.
People will, I'm as guilty of it as anybody else, I guess, of thinking.
We all are. Yeah, but that's the thing. We all are. So you can be the best designer in the world, but if you have no business, then that doesn't really help, right?
Yeah. Or people don't know about you.
Yes. I mean, how many times has somebody said about themselves, I'm the best kept secret?
Well,
that's not a good place to be.
No,
it's not a good place to be.
I mean, I find it difficult to fit it all in. That's my stock excuse, which I know is pretty lame, because we've got plenty of time. It's about, like you say, organizing and allocating time and prioritizing stuff. And I
think it's totally understandable when somebody says, I don't have time because I'm doing all these other things as well. But what makes the change or makes the shift is being aware of what you're spending your time on. And I bet, and this is why I like the time blocking so much, is I bet there's a ton of stuff that you're doing that actually either doesn't need to be done or could be done by somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that could free up the time that you need to think about, where do you want your business to go?
Yeah. So what are the tricks in terms of implementing that sort of thing? Where do you start? So
you start writing it down. Start even journaling what you did during the day, what you spent time on, what were you working on. And I bet there's a bunch of maybe trivial things that are going on in there. And, we all get into situations where maybe we're supposed to be working on a design project, or we are working on a design project and it gets hard. And so we take a mental break, which is fine. But the mental break that's supposed to be 10 minutes may turn into an hour. Right? Or we're answering emails as they come up, as they bing bong in our world, instead of saying, well, let me set aside a certain amount of time to just spend on answering emails, and then I will go and do the other thing I want to do for 45 minutes. So I think it's also concentrated time. Like, we have no attention span. And when we start and stop things, that really causes a lot of wasted time as well. So first thing is just being aware of what we're spending our time on.
Yeah. The interruptions, that's pretty key, isn't it? Something like,
Yes. The fires that we think need to be put out right now. Yes. The text messages, the emails, the phone calls.
That's, it's like the technology available now and all those blooming pop-ups, it's like turn your notifications.
Turn it off. Yeah. Put your phone in another room. That's the biggest thing. If you need to concentrate on something, even if you give yourself 45 minutes, put your phone in the other room and turn off all the notifications. And you will get a lot done in 45 minutes without interruptions. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. So they're simple steps, aren't they, really? It's about discipline and just organization.
Yeah, and learning and just understanding. The other thing is to know when your best time of day is and when your worst time of the day is. Like, I call it your golden hour. And, you hear a lot of business people talk about the mornings, which for me works. That is my time. The mornings is great because it's quiet. Nothing's really, started. But some people get their energy, after dinner or at night, or night owls. I mean, whenever you get your energy, then if you own your own business, does it matter what time you do your work? I mean, or you work on your marketing, which is when you need to be, your most creative or receptive to it. So
Yeah.
find your golden hour, right?
It's about so that's like understanding yourself a bit more, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. 100%.
So the process of publishing the book, was
Yes.
you approached by someone, or was it your own idea that you just decided to self-publish, or?
Yeah, self-published.
Yeah.
I did. And it wasn't too terribly bad. I did it a really very, I'm going to say, relatively easy way. I got asked to do a keynote speech at a design event locally and put together this speech, and it was very well received. And so when I got done with the speech, I took it and had it transcribed. It was an hour long, so there was a fair amount of information. So I went ahead and had it transcribed, and then I worked with an editor that kind of broke it into chapters, and then went ahead and embellished it a little bit. And there you go. That was my book.
That sounds amazingly simple. How long did it take you to do that?
Too long.
Too long.
Because, once I got through that part, you think it sounds like, so they do say like you can write a book in a weekend if you have these certain techniques that you use, which is basically like coming up with the 10 questions that people ask you all the time and then basically answering them. Now, granted, my book is a marketing tool. It is a lead magnet.
Yeah.
That is how I also, get to know new people who are new to me. So that is what my book is. My book is not I'm going to be a bestseller on Amazon. It is a book to get people to understand why coaching and understanding yourself as a business owner is so important. But yeah, I mean, it took longer than it should because I got into my head about the book. Because as a creative, of course, you're like, it should be like, I need to put more in here and it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
But in hindsight now, the thing that I like about the book is that you could read that book in an hour, I think. I'll send you a copy of the book or give you a downloadable version of the book, whatever you like. But I think it's relatively easy to understand the concepts and then to implement the concepts, which I love that. I'm from New Jersey. I like things to be simple and easy and just tell me what to do. Yeah. And so that is, a lot of the concepts can be literally implemented very quickly and make a difference. And so that's how I put the book together. So it's a super simple, easy read and something that you can really take and implement right away.
And there's a good trick there because what you've done is sort of repurpose some existing material,
Yes.
Taking something you've spent a lot of time on to develop and then
yes,
again, which I think is, if you can, as a designer trying to market yourself, if you can do that,
yep,
like whatever you've done, an article or just reviewing a piece of work or sharing some information, if that can be, you can use it again, then that's saving time, isn't it? I think that's the thing. It's been focusing on what you're trying to achieve and doing it in an efficient way.
Yeah, and that can be used as a marketing piece. I send a lot of stuff ahead of time to clients before I'm hired to have them get to know me and to answer questions and things. And again, that can be used, an article or something that was published. It just really can be used in your marketing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like a book that you can read in an hour. I think that sounds brilliant. I spent a lot of time not read. I was just thinking, reading big books. I'm a creative. I don't need to read big books. I'm a visual person, but obviously there's lots of great stuff out there. But if you can get it quickly, I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and I left room at the end of each chapter for you to write notes. I want you to write in that book, highlight things, write things. Put your big takeaways at the end of each chapter, and then you can go back and revisit just those things, which is even faster.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, okay, I'm going to read that book and start my journey towards the penthouse. I'm not sure which floor, but I mean,
all the way to the top, whatever the top floor is to you, right?
Yes,
all the way to the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about aspiration. I mean,
yeah,
I think you don't have to be the most successful person in the world, do you? But actually what you're talking about is just getting a better sense of what you want out of your life and what success look like to you, right? What does
And one of the parts in the book is I say you don't have to be the best. You just need to be the best marketer.
presumably you're going through the process of trying to identify what success means for your clients. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot. Is people feel like they need to be like some famous designer that they have seen, insert name here, to feel like they've arrived. And honestly, if I have several clients right now who are moms whose kids are in high school, and being a mom with a kid in high school, you need that flexibility, or you want that flexibility with your business so that you can go to all the things that are happening their senior year or be a part of that. And so that's, to me, to them, that's what their success looks like. And so you just really need to define what it is that you really want to do. I think work-life balance too is a huge, like, we really dive into our work as much as we love it, but it does tend to, over time, it loses its luster. And then we lose our ability to provide great design because we're just honestly overtapped. So I think rejuvenating our creative spirit, whatever that means, whatever hobby we do, whatever traveling we do, going to art museums, we have to fill that tank. And so we need to have that time. So whatever success looks like to you, I never wanted to have a big design business, meaning with lots of people and a big building and all that other things. There are people who do want that. They want staff and they want the building. And so what does all of that look like to you? And then how are you going to, at least take the first step into getting there?
So is that part of the process is about sort of getting people to let go of those preconceptions about?
Yes, that's hard. So hard. Yeah. Because we don't, like I said earlier, we don't ever stop to give ourselves some space and to dream. Basically, what is it that I really want? Or what is it that I'm doing that I really love? And then how can I make money at this so that I don't have to do all the other stuff? Like the earlier designer I was talking to that just really wanted to do window treatments. I mean, you have to schedule some of that time
to be more strategic.
Yes.
Yeah.
To understand what all that is. And that is, again, sometimes the benefit of a coach is that scheduling that time when you're beholden to someone else, like a meeting where we have a meeting, that's when you think about it. And that's when we talk about what you really want out of your business. And then there are lots of times where I'll hear little things that they'll say that they'll gloss over. And I'm like, we need to go back to that because that sounded really important. And so that's what that outside perspective can really help you by, highlighting things that they're seeing, where they see you light up, where they see that you really want to go, but you're maybe, like you said, afraid to go there.
Yeah. So that's a really good skill, isn't it? In terms of a coach, to be able to spot those moments and to identify the bits that you've got to probe a bit deeper on.
Yes. It's a little psychology, but I mean, just aren't we as designers, aren't we? Isn't there a lot of psychology in interior design as well? I think there is.
Yeah. Oh God, definitely. But
working with people, right? And understanding what they really want versus what they say. And
I mean, that's an exercise you carry out on every project, isn't it? To try and understand what's going on. So
exactly.
Do interior designers make better coaches? Well,
I think we're certainly in tune to reading people and putting pieces together, right?
Yeah. You coached a lot of interior designers. Presumably, this is transferable across other disciplines, or are there any specifically interior design focused coaching techniques?
To be honest with you, it is coaching that can be done in any industry. Yeah. Sometimes there's specific questions that designers will ask as it relates to running a design business that are very specific. And that, obviously is helpful that, I'm also an interior designer, so I understand the complexities of maybe having a difficult client or, just being a little underconfident and asking what you want in terms of creating boundaries and trying to get business. But these are marketing skills that can be used in any business, is understanding who your best client is, and then what are they worried about? What do they want? What fears do they have? What aspirations do they have? And how does my product, my service meet those needs? That is marketing.
It's a universal thing, isn't it, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I like the approach, the holistic approach you're talking about, in terms of not just focused on the business, but also, lifestyle and health. And, that's the way in which I've been coached. And I believe, I like to try and get my students to think about that as well. Not just about learning to be a designer. It's almost like learning to be a human being, isn't it? And
yes, I was going to say a whole person, but you said it's that human beings just really quite well were a good word for that. Yeah.
And that holistic approach, I think, is really important. And is that something that is common across all coaching techniques, or is it just certain sectors or different approaches that promote that?
I mean, I think it depends on, so coaching is like interior design. Like when you hire a designer, it's a personal experience. That it has to do with philosophy and connection and feeling like this is the person for you. This is the designer for you. And I think the same is for coaching. There are some coaches that really are talking specifically about tools and techniques to move your business forward. And so that just, again, is just a philosophy differential. And that's just how we're approaching it differently. But I'm a creative. I believe that you can have it all, but you have to realize that, you may not have it all at the same time. But I think that you can proactively craft your business to be a combination of helping people and doing what you love at the same time and making money at it. I think that's totally doable.
Yes, the money side of it. Yeah. I think that's one thing not to dismiss, really, because that does make things a lot easier in terms of how.
Well, we are already dismissing it in this industry very easily. So yes, we can't be like, oh, I would do this for free. And I'm like, that's great, but you can't live on free.
Yeah. And what other industry is doing that? You want to get
no one.
A lawyer, They're going to be you're paying from the get-go, aren't you?
Right. And it's a luxury service, no matter, I think that if you're hiring a designer, that you are getting a luxury service. You're hiring someone to help you do something that you can't do yourself.
Yeah. Although there's a whole lot, I don't know about in the States, there's a whole industry around kind of DIY, do-it-yourself, interior design on the quick. And
there is, but is that, as a designer in your own business, is that the type of work generally that we are doing or want to do?
Yeah. So that's a perception thing, isn't it? And it's, I suppose, how you differentiate yourself in opposition to that is the key.
Yeah. So if you're offering a commodity service as a designer, then you have things that you can sell over and over and over and over and over again with minimal effort and or interaction. But if you're doing a custom service where you're crafting something one-off for somebody, that's a custom service. It's like having a car built. It's custom.
Yeah.
It's a different level. You got to just be at where, you got to be charging what your level is, that you're the level of project and service that you're providing.
Mm. So understanding that, I think that's the first step, isn't it? To understand where you fit.
Yes. I think the disconnect comes when designers want to offer the custom service for the commodity price. That's where the problem lies.
Yeah. And getting you to say no. For the first few years, I think we accepted everybody who came through the door,
Mm-hmm.
just did what they said, charged them what they could afford. And, before you know it, 5 years have gone by and you don't know what happened, do you? But it's
right. But there was a turning point there, but then something changed, right? What was it that changed that made you alter your approach?
I think it's sort of having the confidence about your abilities and having the experience, and then probably realizing that people will pay more money. So maybe there's a client that actually does pay the rate that you
got a taste of the good stuff, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And then, a lot of times too, you have one bad client that you're just like, I can't do this anymore. This is taking so much from me.
Yeah.
That it's horrible and I need to change. How do I do that? Right.
Well, I think another thing would be looking at the numbers, the time, because we did for a long time, we were doing timesheets back in the day. And then you'd work out how much money you'd made from a project, and you would just either be thinking, "Oh, that's okay," or you'd be sitting there weeping because you
I know
you realize your hourly rate has just gone through the floor. Yeah. So it's that understanding of the mechanics of it. In the first instance, you're just grateful to be paid to do anything. To
right.
get a job.
You're excited.
Yeah. So maybe it's just a bit about experience, and you start to, as you get older, of course, your priorities change, family, etc., all those costs, you've got to start taking it seriously, or more seriously, I guess. It's a really interesting sort of journey. And I think I just wish I'd had a coach a lot earlier in my career, blimey.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I encourage people. So there's a term for it. It's called leapfrogging. And so that's why I always encourage people to continue to talk to others in the industry that have more experience than them, or are coaches, or somebody that can mentor them, because what you get is the benefit of their experience without going through all the time and tears that they had to go through it. So
I'm just thinking about, have you got any tips or advice for people who are setting out in their career, who probably won't be in a position to potentially afford a coach, or they may feel that it's too early? I mean, is it ever too early to have a coach? Probably not. But
in hindsight, I would say no, it's not too early, because a coach is going to see all these things that you don't see in yourself.
Yeah.
And point them out. So again, they're going to leapfrog you forward. They're going to save you all that time. They could save you 2 years of time.
Yeah.
By, talking through something that you've already verbalized, but didn't realize was either an idea or a dream or whatever. So I don't know that it's ever too early to have a coach. But certainly there's so many resources out there now, especially in the design industry. There's a lot of podcasts and books and, other pieces of content that you can read and learn about. So just be a sponge for sure.
Yeah, there is actually, you could get so much, and you could find the sort of thing that the coaching approach that you resonate with.
Yeah.
And then when the time's right, invest the money.
You're never ready, by the way. You're always kind of... when you make that financial commitment, you're always a little sick to your stomach. Everyone that I've ever done, and I've done a fair amount of coaching, I was just like, oh God.
Yeah.
What have I done?
This better work. That's sort of thing.
But I think that is in itself for me, it's a motivator, because now you're like, I've got to make good on this financial investment, right?
Yeah. And so, I mean, I would say that my experience is if I commit to what we discuss in a coaching session, it generally pays off. It works, I make progress, so you've got to be all in, haven't you? And that's in that sense.
Well, you're beholden to somebody else, which is the best peer pressure, as I call it. It's good peer pressure.
So how do you exert that during your sessions?
We put spreadsheets together.
Yeah.
This is when that thing was assigned. Is it done yet?
Yeah.
And, when it's not done, you're going, well, you want to know why you're not where you want to be? This was assigned 2 months ago and it's still not done.
It's accountability, isn't it?
Big time accountability really helps. Because when you're in your own business, if you don't do it, who's going to yell at you? Or who's going to say you really needed to do that, right? Yeah. Nobody.
There's that little voice inside your head, isn't it? That'll be doing that. But it's the
I'll get to that next week is what usually happens. I'll do that next week.
Yeah. But deadlines, I think, is the key. I find if I've got a deadline, I'll do something. If I haven't got a deadline, it'll just slip. So it's that discipline, isn't it? Again, come back to that really about setting out your expectations and putting some sort of time on it.
And kind of going through the process one step at a time, instead of looking at the big project and being completely overwhelmed about how that's going to get done and when that's going to get done. This is more, this week we're going to do this step, and then next week we're going to do that step. And it's just a much easier way to approach the long-term goal.
I was just thinking, what is it about that process that you really enjoy then? Have you had any moments, where it's just been, unexpected or joyous, or
helping people, seeing someone come on a call completely stressed, and then even in an hour, just feel like they've got it mapped out, or they feel way more confident about what they're doing moving forward. That is so great, because we can't live every day on the edge of stress all the time. And a lot of us are. I mean, there's a lot of designers right now that are just maybe too busy, right? And overworked. And it's really stressful. And to have someone to talk to that's not in your business. I mean, I'm in the design industry, but I'm not in your business. And to be able to have that release, and it's not your spouse or your friend who doesn't really understand what you're going through. It's very rewarding to be able to help people work through an issue and then feel like they can handle it after this. It's pretty exciting. It's very, real-time rewarding. The thing I always tell people is you are in control. You can craft all these things moving forward. And that just really helps to make you feel like this isn't happening to you, but you can create it.
I think that's really hugely important, isn't it? And particularly as we are in a creative industry, that should resonate, shouldn't it? In terms of,
why wouldn't we design our own business, right? We design everything else for everyone else, and we like to be in control. So why not be in control of what you want your business to look like, and then in turn, how you want that to basically fold into your life.
I'd like to thank Pam for taking the time to speak to me. It's really interesting to see her approach on how to market her design company and how she's using that expertise and experience to help other interior designers market themselves. Something that's quite difficult to do. If you've ever run your own business, the marketing is always the last thing to be tackled in many cases. And Pam gives some really useful tips and insight into how to focus on what you want to get out of life, who you want to be working for, how to attract those clients that are going to deliver the combination of lifestyle, income and enjoyment and fun. We often spend a lot of time going through the motions of doing design work without thinking about the bigger picture, and her work around focusing on where you're going and the reasons why, and looking at your target market and visualizing the type of work and lifestyle you want is really helpful in focusing you on achieving what you want to do. Her book Elevate is available through the website. There's some links in the show notes. And Pam's podcast, Six Figure Designer, is a really aspirational listen. If you want to be earning the money you think you deserve from this industry, then dial into that and have a listen. Along with the design process, marketing yourself and how to visualize success is something that we teach our students at the University of Plymouth on our interior design course. If you want to become a kick-ass designer, come and join us on the interior design course at the University of Plymouth. Follow the links in the show notes. I'd like to thank Dave Clark from I Am The How for production support and invaluable advice in the setting up of this podcast. Kay Hansen for her planning support and co-hosting role for these and our educational podcasts for the University of Plymouth. And Mark Frith for the music. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.